Okay.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness MVP Core Group meeting here October 8th in the Town Hall at 4:30 in the afternoon. This meeting will be held in a hybrid fashion with the opportunity for both in-person attendance and remote participation. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technological problems interrupt the virtual broadcast unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item on this agenda should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. The meeting will be held in person in the main meeting room of Deerfield Municipal Offices in accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A. Anyone intending to record the meeting must identify themselves to the clerk and provide their name and address for the record. Thank you. First item on the agenda is to adopt the minutes. Has anyone had a chance to look at them? I just want to make a couple corrections. I noticed, first off, they didn't list poor Cece. She's been good about coming. And then there was Mississippi Valley planning there somewhere instead of municipal vulnerability. And then the other correction that I noticed was Casey Taylor, who is the regional conservationist for NRCS, is committed support for our PL 566, ours and Providence, Rhode Island. She did not commit the funding. She doesn't have the authority for the funding. So was there any other corrections that anyone noticed?
Thank you. I'll make a note of that. AI and I are still working together on minutes, so it's a work in progress.
It's fine. To have minutes is lovely, to have real minutes. I mean, it's less than a month, so it's great. That just makes us read them, that's all.
Yeah.
I will take a motion to adopt them with amendments.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Perfect. Update on landowner outreach for the Deerfield River floodplain protection. Wayne?
I have no updates for that.
Okay.
Still waiting to hear back.
All right. Did we get a number from GZA, Greg?
No, and Rosalie apologizes because she did say she was going to get it to us in September, and I reached out to her again in the last week, and she's like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, we got bogged down, but we'll have it to you this week, so hopefully it'll come in soon."
All right. No, that's no problem. The next item on our agenda, which is really what's important that we need to vote on, is our priority list that we're going to submit a letter of interest. Oh, Lori, great. I'm sorry. I hope you have no problem with the minutes. We just made a few changes. One of the things that it appears to be, I think we had a great session for the downtown information session on the workshop for the flooding. So I think that we should still continue working as a priority. And so I think that the Pleasant Street culvert is emerging as the priority. Then the second, I think we're allowed 4 vague kind of things that we're interested in. And the Sugarloaf Brook, Blacksmith Brook, between Eastern and Grave Streets, I feel pretty strongly, and maybe Pete can address this a little bit more, but I feel like we should have an engineer and hired contractor come in and do the first clean through, just so it's done correctly so it's all ready to go into our bundled NOI correctly. How do you feel about that, Pete?
Yeah, we just actually, the Conservation Commission just approved the NOI in our last meeting with a lot of conditions. I think the conditions are just getting signed off now. Some of the conditions that we put in, special conditions, were to have not the engineer, perhaps do the work, but to require the engineer to come out and delineate the actual work areas. There's 18 obstructions that were brought to us in the NOI. So to delineate the specifics of the work area, both length, width, and depth, because a lot of them are only 6, 8, 12 inches deep and 2 or 3 feet wide, and also to develop a SOP and training program for the DPW, so that they can, and also, and the third one, and the special, I'm trying to remember, but is to outline exactly how the removals will be done. A lot of it could be done just by hand and shovel, but otherwise, if it's mechanical, how that's going to be completed, specifics on that, and how they get the entries and so forth. So we put a lot of conditions against it, and that's probably has not been submitted back to the applicant yet. Probably will be next week with all the conditions. So we haven't heard back, but there's a lot of
So you would be in
detail.
support of that then, having,
if it would be if an engineering firm or the consultant that did the work, followed up with the exact delineation and actually did the work versus the DPW, I'd be supportive of that. Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I feel like, we're only the third community in the state that has bundled NOI, and, I think having it done correctly the first time through would make it, more attractive for us, so be successful with our bundled NOI.
But this NOI that was approved by the Conservation Commission was not brought to us as part of the bundled NOI. It was a standalone NOI.
Okay.
So that's what has been approved. So we would have to,
Would
you know,
this would be in support of putting it in the bundled NOI? Would you be interested?
we really have to look at, and I'm working with the DPW and so forth on the bundled NOI, because it hasn't been actually utilized that often, if at all. And there's a lot of details in there what can't be done. So if this comes under the allowable maintenance section of it, yes. We could push it to the bundled NOI, but if not, it's already been approved as a standalone NOI.
Okay,
So we'd probably have to go back and pull back on the approval and then start over with the process under the bundled.
well,
So
the idea was to get it done correctly,
yes, indeed.
and then wrap it in with the training, in my mind, with the DPW.
And that's part of the special order conditions that we put in, that there would be the consultant that put together the NOI would put together a standing operating procedures and do the training, as well as go out and flag and delineate the exact locations of work. So that's within that NOI. We could pull that one back if needed, but we'd have to start over with the bundled NOI again.
I guess I was looking for training and someone to oversee it, which would be an expense to the town. Wayne, does that seem like that would be eligible?
I think would be eligible is that I don't know the funding for going forward, but you'd be talking about funding for October of 26. Is that a problem?
No, this would be the next, the next round of the MVP. So,
Okay.
I mean, obviously the town would like to do it sooner than later, but my understanding is it's like a $50,000 expense. So having it paid for under the MVP would be very nice.
And
And
sorry,
I'm sorry, but perhaps it could be separate. The training aspect could be separate from the Sugarloaf Brook NOI in a way.
Yep.
That we want to
it
do
could.
a training of the DPW for, how to do this, because there's going to be the lower part of
Well, we
Bloody
have-
Brook. There's a lower part of there's a lot going on in Bloody Brook. There's a lot of stuff that the town may get involved with. There's also another swale that we're working on now from Hillside over to Captain Lathrop. So that training could be much more widespread, but it'd be really helpful to have that done. So, however,
So there's not a right answer, unfortunately. I can just tell you the trade-off. So you can bundle things together, and the story could be you're trying to solve flooding in multiple places. So you could do all three projects, right? Training, the Sugarloaf Brook, and what was the first one, the Pleasant Street culvert. That could be one project. If you do three projects, separate ones, they're more likely to just cut one out totally. So that's the argument for bundling them. But if you bundle it, there's a bigger dollar amount. They might not find. So there's not a right answer, but that's the trade-off between.
Well, I mean, our story is that we want to keep working on the South Deerfield Village here to prevent flooding. And they've already invested in our hydrology study. So it seems like they would want to continue to commit.
And you're not talking, I mean, I don't know the numbers, but I heard someone throw out $50,000. That's not a big dollar amount to add. So there's some appeal of just bundling them together.
Okay. And then Natalie Blay had told John Pekarski from Pekarski's that maybe we should submit something for them on their riverbank erosion that's threatening their septic field under MVP. So separately, in my mind, we've not identified anything in the Mill River, but in my mind, Pekarski's is worth putting in because it's in support of agricultural community. There are not very many meat processors, and it's a local, wicked good local business. But Wayne, when I was talking to Wayne just a few minutes ago before the meeting, he also said that potentially it could work under Mass Works. So I think if we as a committee, we could put this letter of interest in as a separate standalone, but then also we could try to pursue the Mass Works grant. I'll talk to Alex and see.
I'm just curious because I did walk through that culvert or that whole soil area, river area a number of times, and it was fortified by Mass DOT on that side of 116 going up through, and the septic system, it was so far away from the brook area. There is definitely, underlayment of the brook coming through on that channel, but I'm not sure whether it be part of the Mass DOT, how far they would go out, what their right of way is there, and you would really need the engineering, I would think, to look at. Is that it's a private septic, I believe, and is that going to be impacted? And at what time would it be impacted, depending on what the hydrology is and what potential fortification? I mean, they put a bunch of riprap in their fortification on the side, but it is a steep curve through there. So I think there's a lot more to the details of that than.
I've had an NRCS go out there, and the problem is it's not close enough to the septic system yet to trigger the emergency watershed protection program. Yeah.
Could we do something like plant trees along the bank? Get MVP money for that?
I don't know.
Or is that
I'm not really
too
sure.
little, too late?
Yeah.
Well, it's an
Oh,
interesting idea
okay.
of the bank stabilization. And there may be different types of things you could do with bank stabilization, and some of that would be planting of trees and shrubbery in the area, but there's also might be some additional fortification that would have to be done with, more of a construction riprap. It does take a really good cut there on Mill River coming around, and it cuts back over there. So it's taking this material over here, and when you go over here, it deposits it over there. That's what rivers do.
Right.
So there could be some things that could be done in that sense too.
So the other timing then in terms of what NRCS would pay for is, so MassWorks heavily rates you based on readiness to proceed. So they would like a full design. MVP doesn't require that, but they're going to give you in phases. They don't want to fund a design phase and a construction phase at the same time. So if you could, if you could get NRCS, obviously depending on the government shutdown, to do a design before, not the letter of intent, but before the actual application, then you could have a competitive application.
That's a good idea.
So I've got a question. So, okay, I'm getting a little confused here. So has this been on our list before?
No,
Or is this
This
a high
was-
priority list? Is this just because of a conversation with Natalie Blay?
Natalie Blay sent,
Okay.
had John come in, John Pekarsky come in.
Well, okay, I'm not sure whether, I don't know. I mean, that's a private, I don't know, I may have a little problem with that.
Yeah, it was actually the same kind of question. Are we allowed to use MVP funding to take care of a private property situation?
No,
Okay.
but the analysis you'd need is, I mean, it's fine to help a private party if it's also helping public. So the analysis is, is this making the Mill River warmer because it's not shaded and that affects habitat? Or is it creating sediment that creates more flooding? None of which I know the answer to, but
I mean,
So
all of
are there
Bloody
public
Brook is
benefits?
Yeah, most of it is private property. Oh, sorry. I mean, a lot of what's along Bloody Brook has been private property, but we're trying to help the whole kind of watershed there.
No,
So
I get that, but this is one specific business, so that's why I'm just wondering if, it's the first time we've talked about it. Is it on our priority list? I was just trying to stick to our priority list and what we've discussed before.
No, it's not on our priority list. Natalie just sent it in and I wanted, I felt like because I have been trying to work to find them funding. There is NRCS will pay for engineering and permitting and 60% of the project. If it's like 1,200 feet of restoration, it's $1 million project at least. So that's 400,000 that Pekarskis have to come up with. And so I have been trying to find something with like MDAR, the Department of Agriculture, and nobody has anything to help them. So Natalie sent them in because she knows that the MVP cycle is coming. We're voting today and we'll submit it for the end of the month. And, and so my thought was, well, it's in support of our agricultural community, definitely. But
So
there's
two more-
still a cost share. That's the problem.
Yeah. So two more thoughts as to timing. One, of course, is besides CONSCOM, the federal permitting is going to be a long, slow process.
Yes,
And then you
absolutely.
certainly can amend your MVP priorities, but it's not a difficult process to go through, but you would want to amend it before you applied, I
Yeah.
think probably even for expression of interest.
Well, I think it's worth, how about, instead of, we can apply for it later on. We don't have to put it into our letter of interest. Rather than putting it into our letter of interest and having a half-baked story, how about we keep trying to work on this in the next couple months and see if there's any way that we can wrangle something up. I do want to help them as much as possible, but there is a cost share for the MVP program too. So it's not necessarily much better than the NRCS option. And the Army Corps, we are going to do a training. I already volunteered us as a community to do the training here sometime, I think, in February. The Army Corps is going to come and talk about switching from a regional permit to the national permit. And I think because of the switch to the national permit, it will have some less requirements. So we will learn about that. We're going to try to do one in Holden and maybe Bristol County across the state so people know what's going on. So I don't know anything else beside that because of the government shutdown, but that came up in my meeting when I was in New York. So I already volunteered for us to try to figure out, since we've had some problems with Army Corps lately. It seemed like, so from our July 23rd, July 23 storms. So it would be nice to find out exactly what the changes are. So do people feel comfortable if we hold off on Pekarsky's then?
I would, I mean, I would like to see, I would not want to see that viewed that, favoritism towards one specific, although I love Pekarsky's, but I'd like to see something that is a little more inclusive of that is why it is so important, considering we already have a priority list, that's all. But I definitely think it's worth.
Yeah, well, Mill River is not on our, it's not part of the watershed for Bloody Brook. It's not part of the Deerfield watershed per se. It's separate. And so it's not anything that we've prioritized right now. So I think we need to do a little bit more work. Okay, I mean, as long as everyone feels comfortable about that. I'll call John and talk to him about that, if that's okay. And I also want to apologize, I did not go to the webinar October 1st because my aunt passed on that day, so I missed that. So I didn't hear any other requirements one way or the other, what they're looking for. Was there anything, Wayne, that we had to be aware of, changing our priorities?
Not,
Okay,
not from where, yeah.
okay. So does everyone feel comfortable with those three priorities then? Do you have any questions, Susan? Anybody?
I guess the question is still, do you want to issue them as three separate expressions of interest or one bundle?
I think we should bundle it as
agree.
this is the part, we're continuing to work on the village. I mean, does everyone feel comfortable with that?
Sounds good.
Could, I don't see it on the agenda, but what are the three?
Well, it looked like in our discussions with GZA and field geology is that the Pleasant Street culvert was coming to the top as a priority. And then I felt that we wanted to do something with Sugarloaf and Blacksmith Brook because it looked like it was going to cost around $50,000. And it seems like if we could get MVP to pay for it rather than coming out of our town budget, that made sense. And that would give us a good start for moving forward with, maintenance.
So I just wanted to clarify that, so the training for DPW would be ongoing maintenance for,
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, we would train the DPW so they would be able to do ongoing maintenance, not just in Blacksmith Brook,
right through town. Yeah, that's,
all through town.
that
Because
sounds like a great idea.
we are one of the few communities, like I said, only 3, that have these bundled NOI. And the idea is we haven't been as a town allowed to maintain ditches since 1985. That's clearly an issue for us at the bottom of the bowl here. So rather than have crisis go from crisis to crisis, it would be lovely to have our highway crew train to do, and that was the idea of the bundled NOI, is that you have maintenance, parameters for maintenance, and you clean, these areas that have been identified. But I didn't feel comfortable not having it done correctly to begin with. Or the idea is to have it correctly set up with an engineer and someone doing it so that, we're setting up our highway department for success rather than, issues.
Can I go back to Pleasant Street?
Sure.
I don't really know GZA's contract. Are they going as far as doing a full design for that?
No, they were just supposed to prioritize some of the.
Okay, so this MVP EOA would just be for the full design, not for construction.
Right.
Okay, well, that makes even more sense to bundle them together because then you're not talking about big dollars. It's one thing
Right.
if you're replacing a culvert.
Okay. I'm hoping by then that we'll get NRCS fully engaged with PL 566, because that's 100% paid for by NRCS, all that. So, but we're still bridging, who knows for how long.
I guess I'm confused, I'm sorry. But we're looking back at what we talked about last month with our high priorities. Number 1 was the implementation from Sugarloaf and Bloody Brook watershed. that included Pleasant Street, but also included three others. Um, it did not include anything about training. And then the second priority was prepare designs for top priority culvert replacements, which had three or four, which I think are the same, but I think, no, actually they were different ones that we put on. So what are we voting on then? Like the priorities that we looked at last month, or are these new priorities with new narratives,
Well,
new
it is a-
description?
It's a little bit narrowed down, because,
And then
because,
I don't know what we're looking at.
oh, this right here. What we're trying to do is come up with some, um, what we're gonna put in to the letter of interest and what is fundable. You gotta narrow it down a little. I still wanna do uplands capacity, and I think we can do it the way Wayne's talking about it, bundling it, because it's still activity.
When was that narrowed down? Yes.
It's narrowing it down to the Pleasant Street.
I know, where did
Oh.
we do that, or did that?
No, that's what we're talking about right now, is is getting it ready.
Yeah, 'cause I haven't-
Yeah, just getting it ready for the letter of interest. We're working,
Wade, why would we narrow it down to just one culvert versus the four that we had done initially? Was that too many
Okay,
or?
I can explain this a little bit. The Pekarskis came in this last week via Natalie Blade, but that's why it ended up as a discussion item on that as a potential for the EOI. The Sugarloaf Brook between Eastern and Graves, that came up in an admin meeting with DPW because we're looking for a funding source to do the work in there, which seems like it needs to be done sooner than later. And so that was put on as an action item that potentially, could be included in this because it is directly related to the GZA research and flood mitigation. So that was suggested to bring it forward as a potential. Then you have the flood retention and the culvert, which was a part of your priorities. So just to give you a backstory on that.
the problem is if you have too many things to design, our dollar amount is getting too high, I think. Whereas we can keep it reasonable with training, engineering.
Question was, where was this list generated
Oh,
from?
this was just generated between Greg and I talking.
Okay. that
as
would-
a
that's
chair.
helpful. It would be helpful for all of us to have.
I understand. It was a last minute talk with her this morning and said, these came forward. I had talked to Chris Curtis a little bit about the Eastern, between Eastern and Graves. And so he's not here. So I probably brought it to you to see if it might be.
I just wasn't
something
sure
we-
whether we missed something from. the
No,
list.
it had been discussed, and it's coming on the heels of the GZA work that was looking at that section. So we asked if it would be just considered.
And
I
I
don't-
was, and I was just nervous about the Conservation Commission being worried about the work that was going to get done. It really, having it set up correctly and walking in with training and having it done correctly seems like the right thing to do.
Correct, but that's part of the order of conditions, so no work can be done until it's completed.
Ugh, okay.
And so I don't know who pays for it or not, but that's part of the order of conditions that consultant has to come in, do the work, the limit of work, do the training, put the SOPs together. So that's a standing order of conditions that no work can proceed until that is done. From the Conservation Commission. I was trying to look at quick in my file here. Do we know, I don't off the top of my head, as GZA looked at the different culverts, is the Pleasant Street their number one priority? I was thinking the railroad was the number one, and then another one up on North Main Street, number two. Pleasant might have been 2 or 3 down at the bottom. So
Well,
are we?
Yeah, I checked that today, and according
was
to
it?
the MVP priority list, Pleasant Street is at the very top, and that was GCA's recommendation. Yeah.
I think that was because we did replace Kelleher Drive and it just doesn't, it clears Kelleher Drive, but it backs up at Pleasant Street, I think is why. that
Right, but
was-
you always want to start downstream and work
I
up.
know.
I'm sorry, I just don't have the information. I didn't know we were voting on things that are different than what we talked about, so I don't have the information.
Is there any logic that if we're doing one culvert, we do the engineering for two or three at the same time? Is
I
there
think
any
it's-
cost savings for engineering a couple of them instead of just one?
I think, I don't know, well, Wayne, what do you think? It's too much money, I
No,
think?
if it's just engineering, that's not big dollars. I mean,
Okay.
grand scheme of things, I think it's worth bundling together, and particularly, this is an expressions of interest. So they may sit down and debrief you and say, that's too much money.
Okay,
So
so
where does
why
one-
don't we put it in all of them because, those top three, because we're absolutely correct. We're trying to look at the whole thing. We've been trying to look at this holistic. And so if we can, that makes sense.
Yeah, if you fix one and.
Does that make sense to everybody then? If we do it holistically? And if they come back and say it's too much money, then we'll have to look at it again.
Expression of interest, that's what that's for, so.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I just want us to make sure that we get approval. We need some money coming in to keep moving forward. That's.
Carolyn, when were you talking about training for the DPW?
Well, I would, if we can get NRCS going on this, depending, we could do this as pretty soon, but.
Okay. No, I just wanted to mention at our CIPC meeting, they put in a request for a John Deere, wait. Whoops, wrong. Which one? Shoot, I just missed it. It's a vacuum. Yeah. Yeah, it's a vacuum.
It's a
Shoot.
truck that will vacuum out
Yes,
catch basins.
yeah. I just
Oh,
lost
that's
it.
good.
Darn it.
It's an incredible deal he found up in Maine.
Yeah.
$48,000 for a piece of, a machine and
find
truck
it on
that
my
should cost
phone.
around $350,000.
Oh, my gosh,
Yeah, which is
that's
great.
really good.
Yeah, used, but I mean, he's really good.
You take the
at
storm
this
drain
stuff,
out and.
really
Yeah,
good.
which is
clean
very
out the-
cool.
Yeah.
Huh.
It's somewhere here. Anyway, yeah, and so they were talking about that. So that's, I think it has to be separate, but that should be on special town meeting. So hopefully that gets voted in. They'll have, sewer drain vacuum jetter truck.
Wow.
Instead of having, I guess they had other thing, I don't know what they used, but excavation, environmental cleanup, debris collection, emergency response, liquid and sludge removal. And I said, hey, have you talked to the Concom about this? No, not yet. But I did ask, wait, it's Matt, right? New guy, Matt? Is it Matt Morris? Yeah, I did mention that to him. So you guys, when this comes to pass, you may want to have a conversation with him.
Yeah, and just going back to the training in general of DPW, I need to go back to the approved NOI for Sugarloaf Brook has specific training in it. So if we do a general training that you want it to be used for the brook, it has to be inclusive of that. So whoever does that
Yes.
training has to be inclusive. If not, we're going to demand that somebody else does additional training. And just throwing out, we have an order of conditions that's we're going to follow.
Absolutely. I want to be supportive of that. And it makes sense to, for us to try to get on the right foot to start. So are we all set? Wayne, do you feel comfortable?
Yeah, I think
With
so,
what?
for letter of interest. Okay, for some reason, and when is this due? And,
28th.
okay, so when you get feedback, if not, we'll have to go to Plan B. Do we have a Plan B?
Well, there's a process. So you put your letter of interest in, and they will get back to you. I think at the latest January, because the application process comes in February.
Hey, can we just go through, summarize again what the letter is going to state? Because that document said 4 different things. We're going to take off Pekarsky's.
Yeah, I mean,
We're going to add to.
it's up, if you want to take Pekarsky's off, then you can add, if you want to send me a list of the 4. We've got 3 that I'm aware of right now, which is the Sugarloaf, the Pleasant Street culvert, and the retention
Well, we're
But I
gonna.
think we're gonna add to
Are
the
we gonna add-
Pleasant Street cover to include
to,
Pleasant Street, Lower Railroad,
Okay.
North Main Street,
All
North
right,
Main
well,
Street crossing.
we can add that in.
Can, the railroad owns the lower one though, right?
I believe
Yes,
so, yes.
but we, or the town may own, if you went to, not changing that culvert, but to, additional flood control culverts, that would probably be placed on town land. I don't know the
Right.
details, but it would be up beyond the school and below.
Well, we could say that we're gonna work with the railroad, because we need to work with them anyway. So in the letter of interest, we could say that culvert and say that we're gonna work with them.
Yeah, I mean, if the railroad owns it, they're gonna need to sign a letter of intent for the final application, not for this.
Okay, I,
Ju- Just so it's clear, because you're looking at me, I think Greg and his team take the lead in this. I said I'm happy to review it and give feedback, but you guys.
Right, well, we have a funding issue at this point because Wayne and Chris are at the tail end
Oh,
of their
okay.
funding. So it's something that Alex and I could potentially do in the next several weeks to meet the deadline. But,
okay,
that's where we're at. If there's,
okay.
if you have interest in more funding, I would say, the committee would need to go to the select board and have a discussion there.
Okay. So we're gonna add it's not gonna be just Pleasant Street culvert, it's gonna be the addition of the other culverts, right? Okay.
If that's what you want.
All right. We're gonna talk about Sugarloaf Brook, Blacksmith Brook, between Eastern and Graves, having an engineer and do the identification of points, but also put together a training program for the DPW, right?
Okay, one other question. Identification of points,
Yes. I-
above and beyond the 18 that the engineers already highlighted. GZA did a study of that for the NOI.
To get, to actually go in and do work there, they'd need more points, right?
I
Did you
don't
feel-
think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
No.
So it wouldn't be for more points, it would just be overseeing the actual work.
Yeah, and related to that specific NOI number.
Okay.
It's a DEP file number item, it's 142 dash something, I don't have.
We
it
can
up
get
there,
that
but
number, we can
uh,
get that number to put it
yeah.
in.
It's not, it was designed to be not extensive cleaning. It's only taken out.
That's
little
why I
pieces
wanted this to
here and
be
there.
supervised and done.
So if you want like to make a whole another channel dredge, you're gonna have to do a whole new engineering study. Then we probably have more points, but this was designed by the engineer and what the town brought to, or the DPW and
Right.
emergency management director brought to us to approve, and it was distinct points just
Okay,
that were above the natural stream bed by 4 inches, 6 inches, 8
my
inches.
vision was to have someone do it and be supervised by engineers doing it so that it gets turned over to the DPW correctly done already. Does that, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just, you should really look at what that
Or we can repeat
NO
we can repeat the
NOI has
condition.
there and said, is this enough or not? Because they're not doing a lot of extensive work. It's not going down 1 or 2 feet the whole way. It's literally some areas, just a couple inches of shoveling it off, and where people put a pile of leaves in or something like that.
That's
So
what,
it
but I,
depends on what the intent is.
yeah, the intent was to follow was to turn it over to the DPW correct and already done so that they can successfully maintain it for the following year.
Yeah, and I think within the order conditions, there's another special order condition we put in that we have to do a site visit and review every 3 years ad infinitum for maintenance part of things, because it's not in the bundled NOI. It's not part of their maintenance purposes. So there's a lot of different detail. I'm not sure just how you would reference it to what was already approved. Because if we knew we were changing things, we might not have gone through the whole NOI process and then get it approved.
Well, we'll work on it. It's just a letter of interest.
Right.
So, and then the other thing, we need to talk about flood retention storage. So if we can get, trying to work on the uplands to increase capacity up there in general, having someone give us some advice. Does that seem reasonable for our requests?
Can that include possibly, like, putting an APR on some of the land in Jackson Street or,
It could be.
yeah, so we're gonna get in the NOI or, no, yeah, notice of, whatever your, notification of interest, is that what it stands for? Oh,
Expression of interest, yeah.
EOI, NOI, okay. So you're gonna just ask for recommendations of how to increase upland storage?
Well, what can we do in further detail from experts to increase your capacity upstream? It's open, because obviously if you can do something in the wetlands, great. You know, and access to the floodplains, you know, are you putting in a buffer, you know, anything? Who knows? I'm not, I don't know, I know a lot, but I don't know enough.
And that wasn't part of the GZA so far? They didn't go?
No, they were only giving us information on that we're getting flooded. Basically, they're confirming that we're flooded down here in a bad storm. We need some data, and we're
Right, and that, the measurements of volume will be coming soon, so that'll
Yeah.
help.
and we're trying to collect data to enhance our story, to do more work. Okay. Are we ready to vote? Is everybody in favor and clear enough that we have a draft interest? Okay, because Greg's going to leave in 2 seconds. All right. All those in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you. That was what our big agenda item was. Yes.
Hey, Carolyn, I'll interject really quickly that Alex did want to relay to you guys that there are no retention tanks underneath the Leary lot. So just to let you know, I think we all knew that, but
Right.
just,
It-
there was a question mark about
Okay.
it, so there are none.
It was the capacity to filtrate the water.
Right.
So I have a question. When are you sending out this letter of interest, and can we see it before you send it out?
Oh, yeah, I would recommend that.
That would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we can, I mean, to be honest, we didn't, we didn't realize we were going to be working on this, Alex and I, but that came up in conversation because Chris and Wayne are at the sort of tail end of their contract. So,
Okay, okay.
there's no money at this point, so it's going to have to fall back on us.
Yay.
So,
Well, what we can do is circulate the letter, and everybody can review it, and then just get back to Greg on this, so it's not a violation of open meeting law.
Yeah.
Okay,
And just respond to him and not a reply all, because you can't do that.
right. As long as you reply back to him and not to the whole group, it's not a violation. Everybody can see what the work is.
Yes.
oh, for sure, yeah. I'm very good about that. Don't worry about that.
We have a couple weeks, but the idea was if we waited and had another meeting, it would be like,
No, that's fine.
it doesn't need to do it. So, obviously, the government's shut down, so there's no update from NRCS. Yes.
okay.
No, we just,
You're
no,
probably almost done.
we just need to pick another meeting date
Oh.
real quick. If everyone responds back to the letter of interest, the next, there's no huge rush to have another meeting until sometime towards the end of November, I think. So we could either go the last week in November.
Yeah, that's Thanksgiving.
No, not thanks. Oh, it is last week. So Thanksgiving is the 27th this month. Okay, well, we could do it, we could, when are they supposed to give us information back, Wayne, on the letter of interest?
I don't know. You said it's January?
Well, yeah, they closed the deadline is October 28th.
Right.
And it sounds like that, you know, somewhere between end of November and end of January, depending on, what's there.
Would we be able
There's
to
a
get
lot of
some
people
feedback
applying.
in December? You think?
I can't,
Yeah.
I can't give you a firm date because we just don't know.
Well, let's pick a meeting in December then. Maybe the first week of December. What's the off Wednesday in,
In December?
yeah,
I think they have moved due to the holidays. I think it's possibly the first two. Oh, no, hold on a second. Let me just take a look. They're going to be meeting on the 3rd and the 17th. So the 10th would be the off Wednesday. I don't think you want to do it the next one because that's the Christmas
No.
Eve and then you've got New Year's Eve and.
oh, so how about, Lori, is 4:30, you like 4:30 better, right? Better than 4? Okay, let's,
Wait,
let's,
is that on the 10th?
yes.
I just realized I'm on vacation. So
Oh,
I'm
well, that's,
finally taking a vacation.
oh, well, that's
So-
okay. We'll try to,
So you can meet without me. That's
yeah,
fine.
we'll try to get by with
I was
that.
gonna say Alex can. maybe
Yeah,
fill in.
maybe Alex will cover.
Yeah, that'd be great. Or not. Not that I don't love you, Denise, but.
We love you, Greg, so we'll miss you, but maybe we can get Alex to cover. So December 10th, does that sound okay? 4 o'clock? Sounds good. All right. Okay.
Good.
I will take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous?
God,
Thank you.
nice job, Carolyn.
All right, Greg, thank you. I'm sorry that, hopefully you can get out of here in a minute.
I'm off to Berniston. Wish me luck.